It is Memorial Day, and don't forget at 3 p.m., wherever you happen to be, moment of silence. Oh, hold on, I gotta fix my microphone. There we go, that's better. Well, I was on Newsmax this morning, and whenever I'm on Newsmax, they tell me to turn off your processing. And I go, all right, and then I don't, and then I want to make sure that I want to turn it back on, because I like to be processed, like meats and cheeses and sausages and all those good. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. It is Memorial Day, and you know it's always tricky because you're like, is it Happy Memorial Day? Is it Blessed Memorial Day? Is it Reverend Memorial Day? It's just, you know what? It's Memorial Day, and on Memorial Day, there's several things that we should be doing, but most importantly, we should be, of course, praying and remembering and thanking, being very thankful for those who fell in the line of duty, who gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we could all, sit around today and broadcast on the internet and go to the pool and eat processed foods. That's the kind of thing. So that's what we're doing today. We're thanking everybody. And President Donald Trump is among those who is thanking the fallen. He was at Arlington National Cemetery at the tomb of the unknown soldier, which, by the way, is not one person. People get confused by it. It's representative of every soldier who has never been identified. Every soldier who we've lost in battle and we don't even know it. The missing in action, the missing in action, those kind of people. And but it's a tomb symbolic of all of those, so that you go and you lay a wreath, and it's a fantastic thing. And it's so nice that President Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, and also General Raisin Cain, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they were all there, and they were marching in unison. They were marching very respectfully toward the tomb of the unknown soldier. They had all the color guard behind them with the American flag, and the flags representing every single one of our armed forces: the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, the Coast Guard, the Space Force. And they were all there. And it was one of the first times we've really seen Raisin Cain, who got to also give a little bit of a speech. And we'll get to the... Oh, yeah. And then there's this, yeah, anyway, I didn't mean to, oh wait, why am I, hold on, where am I going? Hang on. I want to go here. There we go. Anyway, that's exactly what happened. And then President Donald Trump gave some really, really fantastic remarks. He was there and he spoke, and it was his second speech in a couple of days. He spoke at West Point the other day at the commencement, which we'll bring you because that was pretty impressive as well. And then he said some really amazing and heartfelt words for this Memorial Day, which I think all of us can definitely take a minute to enjoy and to remember. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't know why they're not playing, but they should be. What is even going on today? Oh no, what is happening? I'm having some kind of Memorial Day issue with my streaming software, and it looks like it's not gonna let me play these clips. That's weird. I don't even know if I'm still live. Oh, that is not good at all. I don't know what happened to the computer, but hang on. I think I know the problem. Hang on. Let me go. I gotta click one thing quickly, and then after I click that should hopefully solve the problem. No, it did not. Well, if we can't play any clips, we're gonna have a very, very, very short show today. Anyway, listen, it's gonna be. Hang on. Let me try one more thing here. I'd hate to have to restart my computer, because that would really be. Hang on. Let me go here.
This is a sacred place.
Okay, there we go. That's not the right clip, but we're getting closer. Anyway, here we go. Here is okay. Well, you know what? We'll start with J.D. Vance. Why not? He's the vice president. We'll go. Like he's the opening act. So President Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, they were all at the tomb of the unknown soldier. They were all at Arlington Cemetery just moments ago. They gave this speech, and here's what J.D. Vance said about Arlington National Cemetery and this National Day of Remembrance.
This is a sacred place, an eternal resting spot for our nation's sons and daughters. We gather in solemn commemoration of their sacrifice and the sacrifice made by all those who gave up their lives in service to our beloved country. In 1915, President Woodrow Wilson laid the cornerstone of the memorial amphitheater we gather in today. Now, buried within it was a copper box which contained mementos of profound significance to the amphitheater's designers and to our entire country. There were four things: an American flag, a Bible, a copy of our Declaration of Independence, and a copy of the U.S. Constitution. And the objects they chose to dedicate to posterity, those Americans remind us of the values we hold timeless and dear as a nation and as a people. But those values didn't spring from any stonework or time capsule. They were lived out day after day by the people buried in this hallowed cemetery. Each life honored here in Arlington was once full of the ordinary moments and quiet dreams, of early sunrises, of good days and bad days, of celebrations and disappointments. They stood not apart from us, but among us, ordinary men and women who chose to shoulder an impossible burden.
Yeah, and he went, and I'll be honest with you, I let that run a little longer because I was troubleshooting some stuff. But that was a great speech and a great history lesson, and something that is truly important that we remember. And J.D. Vance again showing once again why he is vice president and why he may be actually the next president of the United States. In fact, I have some information about that coming up here in just a minute. And then President Donald Trump, of course, got up, and Donald Trump said some things that are truly outstanding. And he delivered a speech honoring the fallen, as only President Donald Trump can do.
The sacrifice that they made was not merely for a single battle, a long ago victory, or a fleeting triumph, decades or centuries past. Their sacrifice was for today, tomorrow, and every morning thereafter. Every child that lives in peace, every home that is filled with joy and love, every day the Republic stands is only possible because of those who did what had to be done when duty called, and the cost was everything to them and to their families. Our debt to them is eternal, and it does not diminish with time. It only grows and grows and grows with each passing year. The greatest monument to their courage is not carved in marble or cast in bronze. It's all around us, an American nation, 325 million strong, which will soon be greater than it has ever been before. It will be.
And we all 100% believe that, because President Donald Trump is ushering us into the new golden age. He had some other great lines too from the speech. He was quoting poets, and which is, that's not an oddity, but it's also not something you hear every day.
Great poets have written that it's love which moves the sun and the stars, but here on the sacred soil, right where we are, we're reminded that it's love which moves the course of history and moves it always toward freedom, always.
And that is something that Donald Trump has always professed, that it's peace, that it's love of mankind, that it's not killing people, which makes us stronger, which makes us powerful, and which we should always work toward. And there's some interesting information about Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump's strong. You know, it's interesting because on Memorial Day, or just before Memorial Day, President Donald Trump, basically, here's what happened. He went to West Point and he honored a bunch of graduates, new cadets who are now moving out into the world from the training field to the battlefield. They're now leaving West Point Military Academy, the Army's, top-notch training school, the most amazing academy for military service and training in the world. And they're entering the armed forces. And now that that's happening, we have a situation with Vladimir Putin, which is escalating. And then, of course, we have Memorial Day, where President Donald Trump is talking about those who've already gone and already fought and already passed away, and done so to protect us and to keep this country strong. Really interesting bookended weekend for President Donald Trump. But it's true. It's true. You never know when Americans will be called to duty. Luckily, we have a lot of Americans who are ready to be called to duty, and we have a lot of Americans who are enlisting, so that they'll be the next group of West Point graduates. They'll be the next group of enlisted heading out to different various bases around the country. They'll be the next group stepping up to protect us from whatever dangers we may face. which are, there's fewer, but there's still many.
We gather today to honor the incredible service members who rest in glory in this cemetery and burial grounds around the world and in 1,000 lonely places known only to God. In every hour of peril and every moment of crisis, American warriors have left behind the blessings of home and family to answer their nation's call. They've offered all that they had within them and given their last breaths to each and every one of us that we might live safe and breathe free. This morning we pay tribute to their immortal deeds. We share in the sorrow of their beloved families, and as one nation we give thanks for the ultimate gift they have so selflessly given to all of us. These warriors, and that's what they are, as great, great warriors, picked up their mantle of duty and service, knowing that to live for others meant always that they might die for others. They knew that. They asked nothing for it. They gave everything, and we owe them everything and much, much more.
All true. All true. Truer words were never spoken, and that is something that Donald Trump believes. That is something that he wants all of us to believe, and all of us, of course, most importantly, to remember and honor today and every day as Americans. Listen, we've got some stuff that we got to talk about. We got to talk about Vladimir Putin going crazy, because apparently Vladimir Putin has gone totally crazy. We also have to talk about these tariffs some more, and the big, beautiful bill. There's some opposition growing in the Senate, but that's not unexpected. And of course, it's not a bad thing either. I think that you know what? It's very interesting how this is playing out. And I was on Newsmax this morning. They called me and they said, hey, they tricked me, by the way. They tricked me. They wrote to me last week and I was in the middle of something and they said, hey, can you come on Monday like usual? Because usually I'm on Mondays, and I go, yeah, no problem. And they're like 6:30 and 7. I go, yeah, we'll do the 2 hits, whatever. And I agreed to it. And then I totally remembered, oh my God, it's Memorial Day. And then my wife was like, what are you, crazy? You're getting up at 6:30 on Memorial Day? But fun fact, I usually get up by 6:30. Like I usually get up at 6 anyway. If I get up later than 6 o'clock, it's really, would have to have been, out hooting with the owls till all hours of the evening. But anyway, so I got up today and I was on news. It was really great. We had a great time. But something really interesting happened, and we discussed this big, beautiful bill. We discussed the tariffs in a way that I still don't understand why people don't understand. It's really, really fascinating and kind of baffling to me how baffling it is to people the way Donald Trump acts. But every single thing he does follows the same exact path, the same exact plan, the same exact strategy and blueprint. And if you just read his book, you'd know exactly what Donald Trump was doing at all times, and everyone could calm down a little bit. In fact, you know what? Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe the art of the deal should become required reading. That should become, I don't know if Donald Trump has thought about this, or I don't know if, he could suggest it to Linda McMahon. I know we're trying to get rid of the Department of Education, but I would like to suggest that the art of the deal become mandatory reading in all, probably, I would say high school, but maybe even middle school. Definitely high school for sure. Every high school freshman should probably read The Art of the Deal to prepare them for, high school, because you got to wheel a deal in high school. What I've learned having 2 kids in high school and being a former high school graduate myself, yes, I did graduate high school, is that I would say around high school time, maybe earlier, but around high school, you really have to start your relationships. You really got to start wheeling and dealing with people. That's when you realize that teachers are people too, and you can bargain with them. You can play with their emotions or toy with their emotions or pull on their heartstrings, or you can create a solid argument. And if you do it in a way that is, that is convincing and based and rooted in truth, then, you know what, you may get what you want, because that life is truly all a negotiation. They always say you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And I think The Art of the Deal would be great reading. I'd have to reread it again first to make sure that it's appropriate for high school level. And then I'll present. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, so that brings me to my second thing. So I was going to make an announcement this week, a very important announcement this week. I was all set. I was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to say that. and we're going to do it this way, and we're going to do it that way, and it's going to be amazing. And then I remembered that next week I'm out of town. Not only am I out of town, but I'm leaving the country. So I thought to myself, this type of announcement that I'm thinking of making, it's probably not smart to make that announcement and then leave the continent for 4 days. That's probably not in good form. So I'm thinking I may have to wait until I come back in order to make that announcement. So what I'm going to do, what I've planned is we're going to have a full week this week. We're going to be here today. We're going to be here through Friday. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be a lot going on. We're going to be covering all of it. We're going to be fighting to save the Republic. And then I'm going to be gone next week, which we've discussed at length. If you forgot, don't worry. Now I will have, I believe, somebody here for the 47 Daily podcast. So you'll be able to hear that in the morning. But I think that during this time period, I'm not sure what we're going to do. We may have some pre-produced programming. We may have nothing at all. You may just have to follow me on Instagram. I don't know what it is, but we'll figure something fun out. And then when I come back on the 9th, let me double check that. When I come back on Monday, the 9th of June. God, it is not June 9th already. What is today? Today's the 26th. So next Monday is the 2nd. I won't be here. The following Monday is the 9th. On the 9th at 12 noon Eastern time, 12 noon Eastern time. That's 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to make a very, very important announcement. Maybe one of the most important announcements I've ever made. So you definitely want to be here. Noon is what you want. Is when we're going to make the announcement, and then we'll follow up that announcement with the live show at 1 p.m. the way we usually do. So just to plan ahead, I'm just letting you guys all in on what's going on. I want you guys to be prepared. Now, there is a secret website that many of you have found, and I will say this: yes, the secret website does have something to do with my major announcement. But again, we're going to wait. We're going to push that back a little bit until the 9th at noon o'clock, when you can come back here and you can you can do your thing. All right, let's go back to President Donald Trump. Sorry, my computer's running a little slow today too, so I don't know what it is. I probably should have just restarted before the show, because I don't think I've restarted all weekend. And typically, I don't know what it is, but that's what happens with the computer. You gotta kick it in the what to get it going again. But Donald Trump, President of the United States, had a couple of big announcements, and we'll get to those here in just a minute. But I want to talk a little bit about the big, beautiful bill, because that's where we left off last week. The big, beautiful bill had cleared the House of Representatives barely. We had two dudes fall asleep. This is the problem with the Republican Party, right? This is the problem with it. We got the Democrats on the left who are just plain crazy, just nutso, just whack jobs. The Democrats have lost their minds. I don't even know if they had multiple minds, or if they're all just tuned into the same crazed, TDS mind like the Borg, but they've lost their minds. And the Democrats, they're dangerously insane. Now, the left is crazy, but over here on the right, we've got the Republicans, and they're just lazy. And they're falling asleep at the wheel. They're falling asleep during votes. They're sleeping through votes. They're moving as slow as molasses in January. I mean, Donald Trump has signed 6 pieces of legislation into law in his second term. And at this point in Joe Biden's term, he'd already signed 10, or the auto pen did. And that is deplorable. Barack Obama had signed like 25. The Republicans have control of the House, control of the Senate. They've got control of the White House. They could be passing legislation and sending bills to Donald Trump's desk over and over and over again. They've wasted it. They've squandered their opportunity. Only 5 pieces of legislation have gone to President Donald Trump's desk, and there should be more. One of them was the Laken Riley Act. One of them was the one that he just signed with Melania Trump. What was it? The Stand Up for Them, Fight for Them. You know, the thing that I'm talking about. And then a couple others just basically undid a bunch of Joe Biden crap, which really, we should have laws, or we should have bills going to the president's desk like every week, undoing the stuff that Joe Biden did, deregulating the government, defunding the government. It's not happening. The Republicans are the laziest group of SOBs I've ever seen in my entire life. So the Democrats are crazy, the Republicans are lazy, and in 2026, we've got an opportunity to send some people up there to change, or to fight against both of those sides. And we're going We're going to get some people in line. We've got some people lined up, I think, that are going to do that. But the fact of the matter is the big, beautiful bill, it passed barely, and now it goes to the Senate. And the Senate is where it's 100% going to meet. I mean, there's already people there. There's already people there who are fighting against it. One of them is Rand Paul. And Rand Paul from Kentucky said he's opposed to all the massive excess spending in this bill and the debt ceiling increase. And he said he's a no-go in the Senate.
The bigger a bill, the more it includes, the more difficult it is to get everybody to agree to things. I supported the tax cuts in 2017. I support making them permanent, so I support that part of the bill. I support spending cuts. I think the cuts currently in the bill are wimpy and anemic, but I still would support the bill, even with wimpy and anemic cuts, if they weren't going to explode the debt. The problem is the math doesn't add up. They're going to explode the debt by, the House says $4 trillion. The Senate's actually been talking about exploding the debt $5 trillion. This year in September, when our fiscal year ends, the deficit will be about $2.2 trillion. Now, people used to always say, the Republicans would say, well, that's Bidenomics, that's Biden spending levels. When March, every Republican, virtually every Republican other than me, voted to continue the Biden spending levels, which are going to give us a $2.2 trillion deficit. Now, if you increase the debt ceiling $4 to $5 trillion, that means they're planning on $2 trillion this year and more than $2 trillion next year. That's just not conservative. So I've told them if they strip out the debt ceiling, I'll consider, even with the imperfections, voting for the rest of the bill. But I can't vote to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. There's got to be someone left in Washington who thinks debt is wrong and deficits are wrong and wants to go in the other direction. The idea that we're going to explode deficits, and the projections are now looking at over $3 trillion in deficits over the next 10 years, I think is just, not a serious proposal.
Okay, so Rand Paul's saying, look, I like the tax cuts, which who doesn't like a good tax cut? Everybody likes a good tax cut, and we want to make these tax cuts permanent. And I don't know why my camera's.
A bill, the wording.
There we go. He's like, I want to make these tax cuts permanent. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of permanent tax cuts. I like that we're cutting the spending. I think it's weak and anemic, and I think that there should be more spending being cut. But he'll take what he can get at this point. And then he says the big problem is that we have this issue with the deficit exploding, $5 trillion, $4 trillion, whatever it is. It's going to be something that we do not want to. It's not something that we want to see. We want to make sure that we are cutting spending. That the Republicans, who all claim that they're fiscally responsible, are cutting spending, and this bill does not do that. So he's going to be mounting an opposition to it in the Senate. Now, Mike Johnson disagrees with what Rand Paul is saying, and he's saying, look, the CBO says one thing, but when you look at the deficit reduction maneuvers that President Donald Trump has already put into play and will continue to put into play, this bill will not explode the deficit or create that $5 trillion in excess debt.
The estimates, for example, by the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, are wildly inaccurate. They're assuming an historically low growth rate in the economy. The elements of the big, beautiful bill, the reason we're so excited is because it will be jet fuel to the U.S. economy. This is going to foster a pro-growth economy again, to get job creators and entrepreneurs and risk takers moving again, expanding their businesses, adding more jobs. Wages will go up. We'll have more manufacturing in the U.S. because of all the policies that we put into this legislation. It's a long time coming. And remember, not theoretical. We did this before. In the first Trump administration, we brought in the greatest economy in the history of the world, not just the U.S. After just those first 2 years. Because we cut taxes and cut regulations, we're doing it again and on steroids this time.
Okay, so he's saying, look, the argument here is, and it's look, they're both valid arguments. This is where nobody really knows. This is where you have to decide who you trust more. Do you trust the CBO or do you trust President Donald Trump? Do you trust the fiscal hawks in the Republican Party, or do you trust the entrepreneurial types who are betting on the deregulation and the tax cuts and all of this other stuff, the tariffs, the gold cards, everything else Donald Trump is doing to boost the economy? With all of this manufacturing coming back into the country, will we be able to offset the costs? Because that's exactly what the argument is. Mike Johnson and Donald Trump are saying, look, we see that the CBO is saying this will explode the deficit. We see that the CBO is saying you can't have these no tax on tips and no tax on overtime and these Social Security benefits and these $1,000 Trump accounts for kids. You can't have all of that without blowing up the deficit. the things that you're suggesting just aren't possible. But on the flip side, Donald Trump and Mike Johnson are saying you're not taking into account the potential growth that these programs will create that can then offset the costs and will create no additional spending to the deficit. Mike Johnson cites the former President Donald Trump economy, where there was deregulation and tax cuts and people had more money and they were more willing to risk it and to spend it and to start businesses and to grow the economy that way until, of course, COVID. So that's where we are right now. Rand Paul is going to be a solid no unless the spending comes down. Ron Johnson has also said, we're moving way too fast. We need to go a little bit slower. Ron Johnson came out and said, we need to go through this line by line by line. The DOGE cuts are not being solidified. The DOGE cuts need to come out. We need to make sure that we're not spending this extra money. And Donald Trump promised all of these things to the people in power. Okay, but we've got to figure out where we're going to cut them. We can't just say spend without pulling back. And nothing gets pulled back. The reason things don't get pulled back is because the reason you start pulling back, those swampy rhino Republicans who are tied into USAID and all these other corporate or these other federal programs that have been paying their, bankrolling them and their cronies forever. As soon as those things start getting cut or those things go on the chopping block, well, that's when the what hits the fan and people start turning on Trump and saying, I'm not voting for that at all. So what we've got here is a very precarious position. Now, timing is important. Ron Johnson wants to slow this process down. I disagree with that because whatever we decide on, the economy has to turn around before 2026. Why? There's midterm elections. And if President Donald Trump's budget passes in some way, shape, or form before July 4th, which is his goal, he said, Independence Day, we need to have a budget passed before Independence Day. We need to have the big, beautiful bill passed before Independence Day. We need to get all this stuff going so that we can get relief to the American people, so that we can get relief to the American taxpayer, so that we can take away the tax on tips and the tax on overtime. So we can start, giving those people that permanent tax cut. It's got to be by July 4th. And technically, it doesn't have to be by July 4th, but if it is by July 4th, that will give all of these programs the time they need to percolate, to settle in, and to really start showing the fruits of Donald Trump's labor. If by July 4th, the big, beautiful bill can pass, then by September, October, November of 2026, which is when the midterms are, by September, October, November of 2026, you'll be able to look around and go, wow, I have all this money and my taxes are way less than they used to be. And there's all this manufacturing and there's jobs and everything's hunky dory. And man, I love my life. And the economy is just rip roaring. It's amazing. Thank you, President Donald Trump. The timing for this corresponds to the midterm elections. And if the midterms are in 2026, then Donald Trump wants all this stuff done by July 4th, because that will give people that economic boost. Because as we all know, from the Clinton years, it's the economy, stupid. And if your economy stinks, you're not going to get reelected. If the economy stinks, you're not going to get the votes you need. And we need Republicans to vote. I mean, we need Republicans in the House of Representatives. They cannot lose the House. If they lose the House, all of a sudden Donald Trump gets impeached. Just like that. That weird Indian dude with the thick accent that looks like Jimmy Fallon, that guy is going to march right in with his 7 articles of impeachment once again, and he's going to start rattling off all of these things that he believes are against the law, that he believes are high crimes and misdemeanors, but ain't. They're going to impeach Donald Trump for, wearing a red hat when he gave his West Point commencement address. They're going to impeach President Donald Trump because he used the wrong foot when stepping onto Marine One. They'll come up with some ridiculous excuse to do it because that's what they want to do. That's why the House is important. That's why it's important to maintain. And not only is it important to maintain, but it's important to stack with real conservative America First Republicans. Real conservative voices, America First voices who will go in there and who will fight against the Democrats and fight against the deep state and say, we're not going to let you hold us hostage anymore, and we're not going to let you hold our pocketbooks hostage anymore either. That is what's on the table. That's what's up for grabs. And that's why it's so important, again, that some semblance of this bill get passed. Now, there's a couple of other detractors. Mitch McConnell is not supporting the bill either, but that's because Donald Trump wants it, and Mitch McConnell hates Donald Trump and just is going to vote against anything he wants. Lindsey Graham has already said that he's coming out against it, and Lindsey Graham is just one of those guys that, you just SMA, you just shake your head all that. I don't think he has a good reason. I think he's just being Lindsey Graham. If the Senate changes this, or if they, it's got to go back to the House of Representatives anyway. It's not going to survive with all the same verbiage. But whatever the Senate decides to take out or amend or add or rewrite, it's got to go back to the House of Representatives anyway. If the House of Representatives takes the Senate's suggestions and the Senate's changes and just accepts them the way they are, then this thing can get passed by July 4th. If, however, the Senate makes changes and it goes back to the House and the House of Representatives opens up debate and wants to make more changes, then we've got a back and forth, and it's going to be a long and laborious process, especially since we have a slim majority, an even slimmer majority when these clowns keep falling asleep during the most important votes of President Donald Trump's short second administration. So that's another thing. You know what we need? We need some we need some brave Republican voices in the House of Representatives, strong Republicans with stamina and some no-dos. We need to get like a case of Celsius or Red Bull in there for these guys in case or you know what we could do? We could get them to stop taking days off so they don't have to work overnight to rush this thing through before Memorial Day, because that's exactly what happened. That's the other thing too. Really, I've been making fun of, I've been railing on these guys who fell asleep. One of them is from New York. His name is, what's his name? Now I forget his name. Hang on. My computer's not really working. Hold on. New York Representative. What is his name? Something Italian. Oh, here it is. Oh, this is funny. It's Andrew Garbarino. Now, this is kind of funny. Andrew Garbarino, you might remember, he's the guy that fell asleep. It was going to be like, there were two of them actually. Another one was this guy Schweikert from Arizona. But what happened was this bill came through and the vote was 215 to 214, and there were two not voting. There were two Republicans not voting, and everyone was like, whoa. Why are there two Republicans not voting for this bill? What are they doing that's more important? Well, one of them was Andrew Garbarino, and he was asleep in his office. Another one was Schweikert, who showed up late and put his voting card in after the vote had been gavelled closed. We now found out he too fell asleep. So that's two dozing Republicans, two schnoozing rhinos who missed the vote. Well, one of them, the guy from New York, just got endorsed by President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump, this is interesting. This is from Newsweek. President Donald Trump has endorsed the re-election campaign of House Republican Andrew Garbarino, who Speaker Mike Johnson said had missed a vote on Trump's one big beautiful bill, a sweeping budget package, in the early hours of May 22nd because he fell asleep. Newsweek contacted Garbarino's office for comment on Monday via email. Why it matters. On May 22nd, the House narrowly passed Trump's budget package, which includes around $4.9 trillion in tax cuts, as well as additional spending for defense and border security. The bill must now pass the Senate. In a post on his True Social website on Sunday, Trump described Garbarino as a fierce advocate for Long Island, adding, "He has my complete and total endorsement for re-election. He will never let you down." Now, I'm not poo-pooing a Donald Trump endorsement because Donald Trump endorsements are great. I would love to get one for my own campaign. But it's crazy that he would write thank you, he will never let you down, because he literally just days before this announcement or this endorsement, let Donald Trump down, slept through the vote. Congressman Ed Garbarino is a fierce advocate for Long Island and the great people of New York's 2nd Congressional District. Andrew has an incredible record of success and strong support from his community. In Congress, he is fighting tirelessly to grow our economy, cut taxes and regulations, help secure our now very secure southern border, support our incredible military vets, champion American energy dominance, blah, 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 and protect our under siege, which has not been attacked, amended, or changed while I was president. That was on May 25th. That was after he slept through the vote. And Andrew Garbarino wrote back, "Thank you, Mr. President. I will not let you down. It's an honor to serve New York's 2nd District." I don't know, man. I don't know. I just feel like if you fall asleep during one of the biggest votes of President Donald Trump's career, I just feel like if you fall asleep, if you fall asleep when President Donald Trump says, "Hey, I need you there. I need everybody there." I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like, maybe you don't get an endorsement. Who knows? Again, I don't know if I will get an endorsement or not. But again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I still haven't made that big important announcement that I have scheduled for June the 9th at 12 noon. June 9th at 12 noon. Keep your eyes peeled to wherever you are right now. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're following us on YouTube because you don't want to miss this big announcement at noon on June 9th. If you're on Rumble, make sure you're following on Rumble because you don't want to miss this big announcement on Rumble on June 9th at noon. If you're watching on Facebook, definitely follow me on Facebook because I Facebook a lot and you don't want to miss this big announcement June the 9th at 12 o'clock noon. If you're on X, if you're on Getter, if you're, wherever you happen to be, you're going to want to make sure that you have your notifications set, you're subscribed, you're liking, because we're going to have a big, huge announcement on Monday, June 9th at 12 o'clock Eastern time. And I want you to be one of the first to know it. There's another, in fact, I have to send an email. There's a woman named Lily Tang Williams. I don't know if you know her. She's a Chinese immigrant. She ran for Congress in New Hampshire and she didn't win, which New Hampshire's it's a sticky wicket up there. New Hampshire's a blue state that should be a red state. I don't know if it's a blue. I guess technically it is a blue state, but it's a sticky wicket. New Hampshire should be about as blood red as they come. Live free or die is their motto. They are the most conservative of all the New England states. And like I said, I really feel like they should be a solid red state, but they're not. There's a lot of, Democrats from Massachusetts, from Connecticut. They're right next door to Vermont, Bernie Sanders' home, and they make their way up to, that part of the United States. But to me, New Hampshire, it's just a matter of time before they do turn red. A few years ago, there was a young lady running for the Congress in New Hampshire. Her name was Caroline Levitt, and she's a New Hampshire native. She was educated at a place called St. Anselm. It's a Catholic school in New Hampshire, and she ran for Congress. Had she won, I think she was 24 or 5, she would have been the youngest representative in the history of Congress. She didn't win, but you now know her as the press secretary of the United States of America, and I think she's serving her country very well. There's another woman now running, a Republican, a conservative, Lily Tang Williams, and she is coming to Jacksonville, wouldn't you know it, next week. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be here, as I've previously stated, but I'm going to get her on the show. I think we're going to talk to her tomorrow. I have to email her after this, but we were going back and forth. And Lily Tang Williams is, again, an immigrant and immigrants are always the best Americans. I'm telling you. I mean, native-born Americans are great. Immigrants tend to make the better not better, but tend to make, I guess, angrier Americans, especially when it comes to the border issue and especially when it comes to, immigration and that kind of thing. If you come to this country legally, you are not happy that people are coming into this country illegally and doing it in a way that is much easier. I mean, it is not easy to get here legally. And these people that are skirting the system, they just annoy the rest of us who came here legally way back when. But Lily Tang Williams, here she is keeping the American dream alive. She's announced she's running again.
I'm Lily Tang Williams. I was born in China to illiterate working class parents, suffered under Mao's Cultural Revolution and the communist dictatorship. I wanted freedom. America was my promised land. I was 23 when I fled tyranny. Arriving with $100 in my pocket and knowing very little English, I worked hard to make my American dream come true. Today I'm happily married with 3 children, have my own businesses, and live in the grand state where the spirit of liberty resides. My concern is that my children and the grandchildren will not have the opportunities I had. I see the shadow of authoritarianism cast by politicians who have locked us down, closed small businesses, inflate our money, and mortgaged our children's future.
Yeah, and so she's running again for Congress. There's a video, I'm trying to find, there was a video I played last year where she just went off, man. She was so mad. She was so mad at something about Donald Trump, and it was just one of the most amazing videos. That's when I first realized who she was and how important it is that she get to Congress, because these are the kinds of people we need in Congress. I'm trying to find, she was sitting in her Tesla and she was furiously screaming about, I'm going to find that video and I'm going to play it for you, because it's exactly the kind of person that we need in the Congress. And so if you're in New Hampshire, I really want you to understand who she is and what she does. And if you're not in New Hampshire, she's definitely the kind of person that needs support. But anyway, she's coming to Jacksonville, and I thought to myself, wow, that's amazing. Of course, like I said, the timing really stinks because I will not be here, but we're going to get her on the show nonetheless. I'm trying to find where this video is. It was an amazing rant of her sitting in her Tesla. I forget what she was even ranting about, but I just remember going, that's really phenomenal. Anyway, we'll have more with her. We'll have more with her coming up. But these are the kinds of candidates we need. These are the kinds of people that understand tyranny, that understand what's at stake when we say the country's at stake, democracy's at stake, these Democrats are going to trample and destroy the Constitution. When we say stuff like that, it's not just, it's not just hyperbole. It's actually happening. It's actually bad. And you need loud, vocal, almost obnoxious people to get up there and fight these folks. And luckily, we have some really loud, combative, obnoxious people that are willing to do just that. I'm really having some bad computers. I don't know what it was. It's probably, again, my fault. I'm probably overloading my system somehow. Maybe I need to clear out my storage. Maybe I need more RAM or SSD or, some other kind of term, some other kind of letter, HTTP. I don't know what I need, but it's going to be something. Anyway, plus it's Memorial Day, so I'm not going to keep you too long. We'll wrap it up here in just a minute. But I did want to share with you this, because Donald Trump coming back from West Point, which, by the way, his speech at West Point I thought was phenomenal. There was a one particular part that everyone was sharing when he talked about what our military is for. What is the job of our military? And I thought it was brilliant branding. So I wanted to share it with you once again.
The job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, but to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun. The military's job is to dominate any foe and annihilate any threat to America anywhere, anytime, and any place.
The military's job is to dominate any foe and eliminate any threat to America anytime, anywhere, any place. That's true. That's exactly what it is. Annihilate any threat. That's what your job is. Your job is lethality, 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 just like Pete Hegseth always says. It's not about woke stuff. It's not about DE&I. It's not about drag shows for, drag people. What are they? What do you call them? Drag shows for, I guess drag shows they're just drag shows. None of that stuff. It's all about doing the job, and it's about being the best that you can be. And he spoke to these cadets and he spoke to these soldiers, and he said, look, you guys are, first of all, savor this moment, because this is a moment you'll never forget. I would imagine I would never forget President Donald Trump. I would never forget President Donald Trump speaking at my graduation ceremony either. I had Neil Diamond, and he got his guitar out and sang Louie Louie, which was kind of weird. Not as weird as Kermit the Frog at the University of Maryland, but still weird. Anyway, here's Donald Trump saying, look, you guys are the future. You guys are amazing.
Each of you on the field today is among the most talented members of your generation. You could have done anything you wanted. You could have gone anywhere. You could have gone to any school. This is one of the hardest schools to get into. And writing your own ticket to top jobs on Wall Street or Silicon Valley wouldn't be bad, but I think what you're doing is better. Instead of sports teams and spreadsheets and software, you chose a life of service, very important service, instead of stock options. And I do that stuff. It's sort of boring. Honestly, compared to what you're doing, it's real boring. You chose honor and you chose sacrifice. And instead of business suits and dress shoes, you chose muddy boots and fatigues, keeping yourself in shape. Because West Point cadets don't just have the brightest minds, you also have the bravest hearts and the noblest souls. You're amazing people.
And that is what he was saying to those people who, when you think about it, they're like, we're going to put on muddy boots and fatigues and we're going to go out and we're going to fight our foes, which is a difficult thing for anybody to volunteer to do. But here you have thousands and thousands of people, hundreds and hundreds of cadets and graduates who are about to do just that. But the one thing that is really tricky or really interesting is when we think that the threats have ceased or that the world is becoming a more peaceful place, you start to see these things kind of bubble up. And one of the things that's kind of been bubbling up even worse than before is what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has been incessantly bombing Kyiv and Ukraine. He's been bombing innocent people in Kyiv and Ukraine. He's been killing not just soldiers, but civilians, taking out buildings. There was and this is even the worst thing, President Zelensky ordered, or I guess somebody in the Ukrainian military ordered an attack on Vladimir Putin's helicopter with drones. It failed miserably. So now Vladimir Putin's just more annoyed with Ukraine. Yeah. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's trying to get everybody to the table. Marco Rubio's been trying to broker some kind of ceasefire or agreement before we just all walk away. And Vladimir Putin is really getting on Donald Trump's last nerve. And so Donald Trump really escalated his rhetoric against Russia and Vladimir Putin by calling the guy totally crazy.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
Mr. President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
Donald Trump, I don't know what happened. Something happened to Putin. He snapped. He's killing innocent people. I've known him a long time. I don't know why he's doing it, but I don't like it. And Donald Trump's not going to put up with it. So while, it looked like things were simmering down, they might be boiling and bubbling back up. But rest assured, President Donald Trump is the commander in chief in command of a force that is ready, willing, and able to do exactly what he said they were supposed to do. And that is lay down any threat and annihilate any foe, anywhere, any place, anytime. So it'll be interesting to see what the summer brings. Listen, we're gonna wrap it up because it's Memorial Day, and I know that you guys have a lot of fun stuff to do, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And we will be back tomorrow, of course. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more news. There's gonna be a lot more to cover, as there always is. And mark your calendars for June 9th. It's a Monday at noon. Be watching, be subscribed, set your notifications, hit that little ding-a-ling, that little bell so that you are made aware when we go live with our very, very special, very, very important, very, very big announcement. It takes the whole battle for the Republic to the very next level. It's one thing to sit around and scream and yell and talk about it. It's another to, strap on those boots and go fight for real. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Have a wonderful Memorial Day. Don't forget at 3:00 to take a moment of silence. That's the national moment of silence in memory of all of those fallen men and women, those soldiers, those troops who fought so bravely for all of us to enjoy our freedoms. And then, of course, pray and spend time with your family. And remember that all the great things you have in this life is because you're an American, is because you live here, and because you continue to be invested in your country, to be an active part of this republic. You, like everyone before you, have been sacrificing and giving whatever you can to make sure that this country goes on. And there are so many people out there who are never going to come back. They gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we could do this. Whatever this is we're doing, whatever we've got planned today or tomorrow or the day after, it's because of people who were super the bravest of the brave. And that's why we are the home of the brave and the land of the free. Again, enjoy your Memorial Day with your family. Say a little prayer. We will be back tomorrow so that we can continue to learn and to train and to talk and to inform each other of the threats that are always around us so that we can save the Republic. We will see you tomorrow. I gotta go restart my computer.